If you're anything like me, you love having smart plugs. They're found in just about every smart home and they give you the ability to remotely control the outlet. The downside is they can get accidentally unplugged and they're kind of unsightly. One way we solve both of those problems is by installing the Eve energy outlet. My name is Steve and this is it-alchemy. This is the Eve energy outlet. It's a standard 15 amp duplex outlet. It performs the same functions as a typical smart plug, but in a permanently installed receptacle. Inside the box, there's the outlet itself, a detachable faceplate, and 2 mounting screws, along with some wire nuts. This device is designed to entirely replace an existing outlet. The top and bottom outlets are individually controllable. Each can be physically shut off by pressing one of the LED lit buttons on the face, or through your smart home network. The device supports Matter for integration and Thread for communication. Since the receptacle is always powered by the electrical main, it's considered a full thread device. That means it'll act as a thread router and relay communications to increase connectivity on your thread mesh network. Additionally, the Eve Energy outlet also monitors power consumption. This is great because it allows you to monitor energy usage at the outlet for any device that's plugged in. The data is also fully local, so no cloud is required for operation. Now, before we get too carried away and install these all over the house, there are a few considerations that need to be made. First, the receptacle itself requires a line, neutral, and ground wire. Make sure the existing receptacle wiring has these. Unlike other receptacles where the power line wires are secured into screw-down connectors, the Eve energy outlet has a pigtail of stranded wire. This can be a bit tricky to properly splice onto the solid wires of the power line. The provided wire nuts will work, but I prefer to use Wago connectors. Since the outlet uses Matter over Thread, you'll need a Matter controller and a Thread border router. Luckily, our Home Assistant instance has both of these. Working on electrical infrastructure is not very difficult, but it can be dangerous and a potential fire hazard if it's done incorrectly. If you're unsure what to do or you're not confident with working on electrical infrastructure, please consult a licensed electrician. The first thing we'll want to do is determine which receptacle you'll want to replace. I'll be replacing the one here in the living room. Make sure to turn the power off for that receptacle at the main circuit breaker. Remember to test for live power on the receptacle itself, just in case. You can use an outlet tester like this one, or a non-contact voltage tester. I have one of those here, and yep, no power confirmed. First, remove the faceplate. Most are held in by a single screw in the center, but as you can see here, this one is a snap-on, so we'll just pop it off. Next, remove the mounting screws at the top and the bottom. Pull the receptacle out. There should be ample lead on the wires to pull out, just far enough for you to work, but not always. Sometimes it's a little bit of a hassle, but do the best you can. Some outlets have these push inserts on the wires, in which case you'll take a thin screwdriver or something small and sharp and push the release until the wire pops out. Keep track of which wire goes where. This one is the ground, this one is the load, and this one is the neutral. In the US, load is commonly black, neutral is white, and ground is green or bare copper. Mark or label them if you need to. Sometimes paint or drywall mud or even spray foam can hide the wiring color a little bit. To install the Eve energy outlet, remove the stripped end of each of the wires on the pigtail. Match each of these wires with the load, neutral, and ground wires in the outlet box. Make sure that exposed strands of each wire are twisted tightly clockwise. Now, if you're using wire nuts, position the stranded wire a little higher so that it extends just a tiny bit past the solid wire and then twist them together clockwise. Place the wire nut on the end of the combined pair and twist clockwise until tight. You're going to want to give each of those individual wires a little bit of a tug to make sure that they're firmly seated and aren't going to pop out. Do this for all 3 of the wires. Because we're going stranded to solid wire, I prefer using Waco connectors, in which case we'll flip up the tab and insert the solid wire all the way in until you can see the exposed copper at the end. Flip the tab back down and it'll snap in place. You can give the wire a tug to ensure that it's firmly seated. Next, you'll do the same for the stranded cable. Something to note here, Waco connectors bridge all of the wires in the connector together. For each of the load, neutral, and ground wires, you're going to want to have a separate connector that only contains the solid and stranded wires for that type. Do not connect any combination of line, neutral, and ground together, otherwise you're going to have a bad time. And by bad time, I mean fire. Now that we have the receptacle wired, go ahead and push all of the wires back as far as you can into the wall box and then screw the receptacle down using the provided mounting screws. You're going to want to make sure that the receptacle is as centered and level as you can get it before you finish screwing it all the way in. Once it's in place, snap the faceplate on and the install is done. You can go ahead and turn the power back on at the circuit breaker. And if you have an outlet tester like this one, check each outlet to ensure that the power is flowing and the outlet is wired correctly. We have good and good. Now that the device is installed and powered on, we'll be using Home Assistant for our controller to pair it with. As with any Matter device, a QR code is provided to allow easy adoption. This is located on the receptacle here under the faceplate, but there's also a card with the QR code on the box. I'm using the Home Assistant companion app installed on my phone, so we'll go to Settings, Devices and Services, and we'll click Add Integration. We'll select Add Matter Device, and since this is a new device, we'll select that, and then we'll go ahead and scan that QR code. This step is where most people have difficulty, and here are some things to keep in mind when you're troubleshooting. Remember that Matter requires a server. If you're using Home Assistant, this can be added as an integration. Thread requires a thread-capable radio. Here I'm using the Home Assistant Connect ZB1 as my thread radio. Thread also requires a thread border router. I have Open Border Router installed on the Home Assistant instance where the ZB1 is plugged into, and that can be added as an integration as well. Additionally, it needs a primary thread network created. Typically, this is done when you're installing the Open Border Router integration. Another thing to consider is the thread network uses IPv6 for communication and MDNS for advertisements. These will need to be enabled for the device communication and discovery on the VLAN that they're attached to. Depending on your network setup, this can get a little bit complicated, so I find the easiest solution is to ensure that your Home Assistant instance, which includes the thread border router and the Matter server, be in the same VLAN as your devices. In my case, I have the Home Assistant installed on my IoT VLAN and a 2.4 gigahertz IoT Wi-Fi network that also lands in that same VLAN, just to make everything easier. I'm also using my Android phone with the Home Assistant companion app installed to add the devices. There are authentication keys needed to be synced between the phone and the Matter server. This can be done in the companion app by going to the Settings, Companion app, Troubleshoot, and then sync the credentials. To lessen the potential problems, the phone is also in airplane mode with Bluetooth turned on and Wi-Fi turned on and connected to that IoT Wi-Fi network. Some additional considerations: that not all smart devices are fully Matter certified, so their integration and operation can be a little bit spotty. Your mileage may vary. Most Matter devices also only operate on the 2.4 gigahertz band for Wi-Fi. For the most part, this is intentional, so make sure to research the device before you buy it. Now, I mentioned the physical buttons on the receptacle. These control a little relay inside that turns power on and off to each outlet. The LED indicator shows if the outlet is currently turned on, and this can be handy if you want to turn the outlet on and off without plugging or unplugging a device. This could also help reduce the passive electrical draw from devices that are plugged into it when it's not in use. Mostly what I use these for is the energy monitoring. Being able to monitor whole home energy usage at the load center or circuit breaker is nice, but there can be multiple outlets tied to a single circuit in the series, and tracking down which devices have abnormally high usage can be a little bit of a pain. Being able to monitor energy usage on a per outlet basis can really help narrow down where your power is going. As you can see here, the integration monitors what the current amperage, wattage, and voltage draw is, as well as historical kilowatt hour consumption. This monitors the combined usage of both outlets, and currently it doesn't monitor each outlet individually. For your automation use cases, they're kind of a lot. The first thing that comes to mind is lights. Non-smart devices like floor lamps or accent lighting can be scheduled to turn on at a certain time, or even be event-based based on other triggers such as motion or presence detection. Another use is to automatically turn off the outlet when a charging device reaches like a certain battery percentage to help preserve the battery. I mentioned something like this in the video that I did about electrical systems in my Ultimate Dream Smart Home series, where we use an automation to charge a wall-mounted tablet for displaying home assistant dashboard. Check it out here if you missed it. The energy monitoring feature can be used to trigger automations that send you alerts when there are devices left plugged in and powered on, or if the energy consumption becomes abnormally high. Energy monitoring can also be used to track current voltage wattage draw on the outlet. For example, when a device is plugged in, this will increase slightly, but when the device is turned on, it'll increase pretty significantly. And you can use this to trigger an automation. For example, I have sleep apnea, and I use a CPAP machine at night to sleep with. The CPAP machine is plugged into the Eve Energy outlet, and it can trigger an automation for, like, say, a bedtime routine as soon as it turns on. I use this as a good indicator that I'm actually in bed and ready to sleep, instead of just laying there doom scrolling on my phone or something. So should you buy it? I would say yes if you're already planning on purchasing some smart plugs, or if you already have some and you just don't like the aesthetic of a bunch of wall warts sticking out of everywhere. This is a much cleaner way to control power to the devices and monitor their usage. It is a little bit pricey. It runs about $50, but consider a decent individual smart plug runs around $20 to $30, and the Eve Energy outlet you get two, so it's kind of a wash. The downside, of course, is the installation. It doesn't take very long to install, but if you ever actually counted all of the outlets in your house, there's probably quite a few, so it could be a little bit of an involved task to get everything swapped out. Another downside is these currently only come in a 15 amp version. There are no models that have a ground fault circuit interrupter or GFCI, so it's not really usable in locations where you have high amperage devices like microwaves or hair dryers in the bathroom will be plugged in. They also only come in white, so it may not fit your aesthetic. As always, please like this video and subscribe to it-alchemy for more smart home magic. If you have any questions about the Eve Energy outlet, integrations, or energy automations, leave a comment and let me know. Thanks for watching.